Well, all right. Hello, welcome back. We are in Act 1 of Julius Caesar. We're going to go into Scene 2. You learned a lot in the last scene in the beginning. You learned all about Rome. Where's the power with the people? If the people believe it, then you're going to be okay. Otherwise, the people will turn into a mob and destroy you. It's literally how it is in Rome at this point. It's crazy. Who do the people support right now? They support Caesar. Why? Because he won a lot. Like, he took over half of Europe. He killed Pompey. I know that's bad, but hey, you know what? He still won a lot and brought it back. Pompey was old. Who cares about Pompey anymore? Now, remember, who does care about Pompey anymore? A lot of senators still do. Pompey's people still do, and Caesar's enemies are going to, jump on that and say, "Watch out! Pompey was the guy. This guy's going to try to become king." In fact, that's where we're going to start off today. We are going to meet Caesar. It is the beginning of Act 1, Scene 2. He is at his own ceremony. Don't forget, it's also the Feast of the Lupercal. So there's runners. In fact, he's going to tell Antony, who's one of the runners in the course, who's also one of his boys. He's a warrior senator. He's Caesar's right-hand man. He can trust him. He knows that. They've been in all these battles together and whatnot. He says to Antony, make sure you slap my wife with your thong as you run by during your run. Why does he say that, by the way? It's because Calpurnia can't have kids. She's probably barren or just unlucky. They've been unlucky, right? So he tells her, Antony, that, which tells us a couple of things. One, Caesar is superstitious. Two, that he trusts Antony, right? Now, the second part of this intro, we're just going to meet Caesar. We're also going to see Cassius, who's a very important senator, and he's also kind of evil, but we'll figure that out as we go along. He's going to pull Brutus aside. Now, remember I told you about Brutus yesterday. Brutus is another senator. He's a book-smart senator, kind of like Cassius is. But remember, Brutus is the one that the people all love and respect because he's Mr. Honor, he never lies, and because he always does what is for the best of Rome, and the people know that. So here's the deal. Cassius needs to get Brutus on his side before he goes and tries and kills Caesar. Because imagine, you go kill Caesar right now, what's going to happen? I mean, we're all smart enough to know that. The crowds, they're going to kill you. They're going to rip you limb from limb. They're going to burn your home down. They're going to kill everybody you know and love, your servants, your family, all of it. They're going to be mad. So you can't kill Caesar unless, of course, you can have who on your side? Brutus. If you can convince Brutus to be on your side, that Caesar needs to die, and he helps you, well, then after you kill Caesar, the people are like, oh my God, I killed Caesar. Let's get him. And somebody's like, whoa, chill. Brutus was involved. And the people were like, wait a minute. Why would Brutus be involved? They were best friends. He only does what's good to the good of Rome. And someone say, aha, because it must have been for the good of Rome. So let's not kill them because Brutus only does what's for the good of Rome. It must have been really hard for him to kill his best friend. So as you can all see, this whole thing hinges upon the fact that Cassius needs Brutus in his plan to kill Caesar, or everybody's just going to kill him. Now, how do you convince Brutus to kill his best friend? Well, we already know the clue, the trick. You just have to convince Brutus one thing, and Brutus will do anything. What do they have to convince Brutus? That Caesar is bad for what? That Caesar's bad for Rome. Now, here's the question. Is Caesar bad for Rome? The answer is probably a big no. I mean, he's won a lot. He's made them stronger. He gives the people lots of money and riches. So how do you convince Brutus that? That's the trick. Now, Caesar's going to die. They're going to kill Caesar. So somewhere along this next act or two, Cassius is going to convince Brutus to do this dastardly deed. Yes, I said dastardly deed. I know I did. He's going to convince him to do it. He's going to manipulate him into do it. Remember, Cassius is an expert manipulator. Brutus, he's more honorable than he is smart. Let's just put it out there because he's going to make some wicked, stupid mistakes. Oh, by the way, Cassius is going to make some wicked, stupid mistakes. But who makes the wickedest and stupidest mistake of all of them? Oh, boy, it's Caesar. He allows these guys who aren't even really warriors to come and kill him. In other words, he allows them to get close enough to him, and it's a lot of them, and they stab the heck out of him. So why does he do that? How does that, what allows them to get close enough to kill him? And is it Caesar making mistakes, or are they just super smart? It's a whole bunch of everything. So let's watch. Let's go. Let me put it on my screen and let's go. We are now in Julius Caesar, Scene 2, Act 1. Enter Caesar, Antony for the course, which means he's going to run, which means he might be naked. I'm not sure. They never really say. Calpurnia, Portia, Decius, Cicero, Brutus, Cassius, Casca, a soothsayer, just so you all know. A soothsayer, if you don't know. Some of you people who like Harry Potter and stuff like that, you might know what I'm talking about. A soothsayer is a fortune teller. And in those days, soothsayers, fortune tellers were given a lot of respect because, they didn't have science. Well, they had science, but it's not the kind of science that you and I know. So they believed a lot of these crazy things that soothsayers would do. Now, what would soothsayers do? We're talking about like take bones and, put them in a cup and roll them and go, aha, it's going to be like this. And they would believe that stuff. Let's continue. Watch. After them, Marulus and Flavius and the commoners. Oh, yes. Remember Marulus and Flavius? Those were the two Pompey dudes who were pushing people out and taking down the Caesar stuff. The fact that they're there now tells us all we need to know, that Caesar is amongst enemies. He just doesn't realize it yet. Or does he? And he doesn't care because of his hubris, his ego. I don't know. Let's find out. Caesar, Calpurnia, Casca, peace. Oh, Caesar speaks. Caesar, Calpurnia. Calpurnia, here, my lord. Caesar, you directly in Antonius's way when he doth run his course. Antonius, Caesar, my lord. Caesar, forget not in your speed, Antonius, to touch Calpurnia. For our elders say, the baron touched in this holy chase, shake off their sterile curse. Antony, I shall remember. When Caesar says, do this, it is performed. So many things to talk about right there. First of all, Casca didn't call Caesar's wife a hoe. In those days when they said peace ho, that's like saying yo for us. Hey, yo, what's up? They're saying, hey, ho, what's up? Just so you know. Okay, 2. He did tell his wife to stand in front of Antony, and he did tell Antony to touch his wife because they said the baron touched in this holy chase, shake off their sterile curse. Yes, his wife cannot have children, they believe. And he believes that by Antony touching her, that she will be able to. That's some crazy stuff. But hey, they were very superstitious. Got to point that out. But again, even more important, Antony says, I shall remember. When Caesar says, do this, it is performed. Guys, gals, that is our way of learning. And Antony's way of showing it again, reiterating, he is Caesar's man. Whatever Caesar says, he will do. That's important for this play. Caesar, sit on and leave no ceremony out. Senate, soothsayer, Caesar. Caesar, who calls? Casca, bid every noise be still. Peace, yet again. Caesar, who is it in that press that calls on me? I hear a tongue, shriller than all the music, cry Caesar. Speak. Caesar is turned to hear. Now, a couple things I want to point out. Somebody said Caesar's name and in a really weird voice, and Caesar was like, oh, heck no. Who's talking to me like that? That's how much stain Caesar enjoys. That's how tough. That's how revered he is. Dude, you don't even talk to Caesar unless you're ready to talk. You better be respectful to him, is my point. Another thing to point out, Caesar said, I am turned to hear. When would a person ever have to turn to hear somebody? The answer is when they only want to hear in one ear because the other ear is bad. So we're finding out right now. We've got 20 lines in this scene. Caesar has an issue, and one of it, well, he's a human. He's going to have several issues. We all do. Forget about it, right? But one of Caesar's issues is he doesn't have good hearing in one ear. It's probably from war. Maybe there's like a cannon blast or something in his ear, some screaming, dying in his ear. Who knows? But that's a weakness of Caesar. Now remember, Cassius has to turn Brutus against Caesar to get him in his plan so that people won't kill Cassius after he kills Caesar. One of those things will be to point out Caesar's weaknesses. We now know one of his 3. Let's continue. Cry, Caesar, speak. Caesar is turned to hear. Soothsayer, beware the Ides of March. Now, just so everybody knows, the Ides of March, that's the middle of the month. That's March 15th. So the soothsayer just told Caesar, beware of March 15th. Something bad is going to happen to you on March 15th. Now, by the way, do tough people ever want to be told to beware of anything? The answer is no, especially not in front of people. So he just kind of called Caesar out in a weird way. Beware the Caesar. What man is that? Brutus. Soothsayer bids you to beware the Ides of March. Caesar, set him before me. Let me see his face. Now, Caesar's probably used to the fact in his life that when he puts somebody in front of his face, they don't speak up to him anymore, and they certainly don't say anything that scares him. Let's see what happens. He does come up. Cassius, fellow, come from the throng. The soothsayer comes forward. Look upon Caesar. Caesar, what sayest to me now? Speak once again. Soothsayer, beware the Ides of March. Dude, he said it again. Caesar, he is a dreamer. Let us leave him pass. So this is how Caesar chooses to deal with this. In front of everybody. Rather than get all freaked out and have to get angry at the man and beware what, I'm Caesar, I don't have to beware anything, I'm the tough guy. He just said, oh man, this guy's crazy. Get him out of my way. Let's just point out that he was warned by a fortune teller to beware the Ides of March. Cassius, will you go to see the order of the course? Brutus, I'm sorry, let me just point something out. All but Brutus and Cassius exit. So see, they kick the soothsayer out. Caesar and everybody else are walking that way down the street, right? They're watching the course. They're probably looking at the guys running and hitting the women. Brutus and Cassius are alone right now. This is Cassius's time to find out, one, where Brutus stands. We all kind of know where Brutus stands. Brutus stands on the side of Caesar, but certainly on the side of Rome, right? He just hides on the side of Rome. The next thing is he needs to make Brutus believe that Caesar is bad for Rome. And if he can do that, then he can convince Brutus that it's a good idea to kill Caesar. And then once they do that, then when the people are freaking out and saying, oh my God, who killed Caesar? They'll be like, Brutus did, man. Brutus was part of it. So it must have been for the good of Rome. We're going to hear that a lot, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to say it a lot, but it's crucial to this play. You have to understand, and then you will understand all. Even if you don't understand the small tidbits, some of these things that these guys say, it's like, what? But the major thing, let's continue. Cassius, will you go see the order of course? Brutus, not I. It's like, are you going to go see the running? And he's like, not me. Cassius, I pray you, do. Brutus says, I am not gainsome. I do lack some part of that quick spirit that is in Antony. Let me not hinder, Cassius, your desires. I'll leave you. He goes, no, I'm not interested in the games. I'm not young like Antony. I don't really need to see a parade of naked dudes or people hitting each other and whatnot. I'm going to go home. Cassius says, Brutus, I do observe you now of late. I have not from your eye that gentleness and that show of love as I was wont to have. You bear too stubborn and too strange a hand over your friend that loves you. Now, this is very interesting. Cassius is about to try to manipulate Brutus into doing something that is going to ruin Brutus's life or change it irrevocably, regardless for the good or the bad. This is a huge thing Cassius is going to try to give. I mean, murder your best friend. That's kind of a big deal, everybody. Murder anybody is a big deal. Oh, my OMG. How does he start off? By saying to Brutus, you haven't been nice to me lately. Don't you love me anymore? It's an interesting way to start off to manipulate somebody. Point out to them that they haven't been very nice to you, which is going to make him turn around and go, oh, man, I love you. You're my best friend. And then you can start to, well, if we're best friends, let's have this conversation. Listen, Brutus, Cassius, be not deceived. If I have veiled my look, I turn the trouble of my countenance merely upon myself. Long way of saying, dude, if I've been mean to you, I'm sorry. I've really just been mad at myself. I'm having this problem now. He says, vexed I am, of late with passions of some difference, conceptions only proper to myself, which give some soil perhaps to my behaviors. He goes, you know, really, Cassius? I'm sorry, my buddy, my bestie. I've just been mad at myself. I've been having some problems. I've been thinking about something. And it's really been bothering me. Now, guess what? Very ironic. Or is it coincidental? Guess what Brutus has been thinking about? He's been thinking about what everybody's been thinking about. Caesar just killed Pompey. He's coming home. He's really strong. He's like, everybody loves him. That's a good time for Brutus. I mean, for Cassius to say, hey, you've been worried about Caesar? So have I. Listen. Vexed I am of late with passions of some difference, conceptions only proper to myself, which give some soil perhaps to my behaviors. But let not therefore my good friends be grieved, among which number Cassius you be. When he goes, oh, please, man, we're best friends. You know that. Nor construe any further my neglect. That poor Brutus, with himself at war, forgets the shows of love to other men. So, my bad, Cassius. We're boys. Cassius says, then Brutus, I have much mistook your passions, by means whereof this breast of mine hath buried thoughts of great value, worthy cogitations. Tell me, good Brutus, can you see your face? Now, this is interesting. He goes, I see you've been bothered lately, Brutus. Can you see yourself? Do you know how you've been looking lately? Do you know what people have been thinking about you? Seriously, he's a really good manipulator, this guy, Cassius. Listen, Brutus says, no, Cassius. For the eye sees not itself, but by reflection, but by some other things. He goes, of course I don't see myself. I see you. I can't see me. And Cassius says, 'tis just. And it is very much lamented, Brutus, that you have no such mirrors as would turn your hidden words into your eyes, that you might see your shadow. So he goes, oh, it's too bad. You can't see yourself the way I can see you. So let me tell you what I see, Brutus. I have heard where many of the best respect in Rome, except immortal Caesar, speaking of Brutus and groaning underneath his age's yoke, have wished that noble Brutus had his eyes. Ah, listen to this. You know what? I said before that Brutus wasn't that smart. He's going to make a lot of dumb mistakes, and people make dumb mistakes when they're angry or when they're passionate. Think about it. Heck, when you don't get enough food, you make mistakes. When you don't get sleep, you make mistakes. And by the way, that's going to have a big part in this play. In like Act 5, we'll talk about that later. I just want to see. Look what he just said. Cassius said to Brutus, I have heard where many of the best respect in Rome, immortal Caesar, speaking of Brutus and groaning underneath this age's yoke, have wished that noble Brutus had his eyes. So they just said, I heard a lot of people saying, they're a little worried about Caesar getting too strong and Brutus getting too weak. And look what Brutus says. Oh, he's so smart. But again, he's going to make some mistakes. He says, into what dangers would you lead me, Cassius? That you would have me seek into myself for that which is not in me. He says, dude, into what dangers would you lead me, Cassius? That would you have me seek into myself for that which is not in me? What are you getting at, Brutus? I mean, Cassius. He's very smart. He knows Cassius. And I think, by the way, he asks him, into what dangers would you mean? I think he knows darn well what Cassius is starting to imply. But let's continue. See, Cassius isn't stupid. He can't come out and just say, hey, dude, let's go kill Caesar. It's too early. If Brutus isn't sold, and I mean sold, what is he going to do? Brutus says, let's kill Caesar. And he goes, I don't know. Let me think about it. He's going to go back and tell Caesar, dude, these guys are going to kill you. And Caesar's going to kill them all. And that's the end of our story. No, no, no. Cassius is not that stupid. He knows he has to build Brutus up. He's got to get him to that edge, and then he can push him off. And then he can say, let's go kill Caesar. He's not there yet. Listen, therefore, good Brutus, be prepared to hear. And since you know you cannot see yourself so well as by reflection, I, your glass, will modestly discover to yourself that of you yourself which you not yet know of. So good of Cassius. He goes, ouch. Cassius said, dude, what are you getting to? And Cassius goes, relax. Let me just tell you what I see, buddy. And be not jealous of me, gentle Brutus. Were I a common laughter, or did use to stale with ordinary oaths my love to every new protester? If you know that I do fawn on men and hug them hard and after scandal them, or if you know that I profess myself in banqueting to all the rout, then hold me dangerous. And Cassius just said, have you ever known me to manipulate anybody? Have you ever known me to do anybody dirty? And he goes, and if you have, come on, let's hear it. Let's hear it right now. And then there's a flourish and a shout. I want to point something out. While these two gentlemen are over here having their little conversation, Caesar and the rest of them, the train, they all walked that way. All of a sudden, we just heard a flourish and a shout, and everybody's shouting and cheering. So something important is happening over there with Caesar and all the people. If you're Brutus or Cassius, what are you worried is happening over there with Caesar? You're worried that, OMG, the people are offering him a crown. Because remember, this Rome is ruled by senators, 300 senators. They all rule together. I mean, technically, they're really ruled by whoever the top senator is. In this case, it's Caesar. But technically, it's ruled by senators. They still have some voice, right? If Caesar becomes king, they don't have a voice anymore. It becomes from a democracy, or at least a republic, to a monarchy, a dictatorship. So they're worried that's happening. And this is great timing for Cassius. While he's over there trying to manipulate Brutus into killing Caesar, they hear this noise. And Brutus says, what means this shouting? I do fear the people choose Caesar for their king. And by the way, it is exactly what's happening over there. And we'll get to that next scene. Somebody is offering the crown to Caesar right now, but it's not the people. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's a different senator. It's very important, but we'll talk about that next scene. Let's keep in this right now. So Brutus says, OMG, why are they over there cheering? What if they're offering him a crown? Now that's a perfect time if you're Cassius to say, wait a minute, you don't think that's a good idea? In fact, listen to him. He goes, and must I think you would not have it so? Why, do you fear it? And Brutus says, I would not, Cassius, yet I love him well. But wherefore do you hold me here so long? What is it that you would impart to me? If it be aught toward the general good, set honor in one eye and death in the other. Listen to what he just said. It's crucial, people. Brutus just said, all right, Cassius, you know he's my boy. But why do you have me here? What are you talking? That's really important what's going on over there. So why are you holding me here? Something's up. And then he says, listen, if it be aught toward the general good. So if what you're holding me here for is for the general good of Rome, he says, set honor in one eye and death in the other, for I will look on both indifferently. So if what you're going to tell me, big guy, is for the good of Rome, then I will die for it. To heck with everything, to heck with honor, to heck with life, I will die for it. They mean nothing to me because listen, and I will look on both indifferently. For let the gods so speed me as I love the name of honor more than I fear death. So to me, the honorable thing to do would be to die for the good of Rome. And if you're telling me that what you're talking about is for the good of Rome, let's do it. Now Cassius is going to say, I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor. Well, honor is the subject of my story. Now, this is so interesting. Brutus just said, I will die rather than dishonor Rome. So if you're Cassius and you want to make Brutus kill Caesar, well, then you've got to make Brutus think that Cassius is bad for Rome, or that Caesar, you have to make Brutus think that Caesar is bad for Rome, or that he has dishonored Rome, right? Because Brutus is Mr. Honor and Mr. Rome. So Cassius is going to tell him a little story. And in this story, he's going to point out that Caesar has no honor. Listen, let's see if we believe him. Do we agree that Caesar doesn't have honor? I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor. Well, honor is the subject of my story. I cannot tell you what you and other men think of this life, but for my single self, I had as lief not be as live to be in awe of such a thing as myself. Long way of saying, I don't know about you, but buddy, I don't like anybody stronger than me or treating me like I'm some kind of slave. I was born as free as Caesar. So were you. We both have fed as well, and we both can endure the winter's cold as well as he. Very interesting. He's pointing out, no, Caesar is no god, dude. His armpits stink in the summertime too, just like yours and mine. He sweats, he's ugly, he's old, he'll get old, right? For once, upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled Tiber chafing with her shores, Caesar said to me, darest thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood and swim to yonder point? Okay, so he said, I remember one day when I was with Caesar and we were standing on the banks of the Tiber River and Caesar challenged me to a swimming match. Listen, upon the word, accoutred as I was, which means wearing armor. These idiots were wearing their steel armor and they had a swimming contest across a river. By the way, people have because they've been wearing like heavy clothes, not to mention steel on them. So upon the word, accoutred as I was, I plunged in and I bade him follow. So indeed he did. So he's telling the story. One day a while ago, Caesar challenged me to a swimming contest and we did it. Now he hasn't finished his story yet. He says, I jumped in and started swimming and Caesar followed. Now, what would be a dishonorable thing for Caesar to do right now? Listen. The torrent roared, and we did buffet it with lusty sinews, throwing it aside and stemming it with hearts of controversy. And we were battling and we were racing each other. But before we could arrive at the point proposed, Caesar cried, help me, Cassius, or I sink. I, as Aeneas, our great ancestor, did from the flames of Troy upon his shoulder the old Anchises bear, so from the waves of Tiber did I, the tired Caesar. Did you hear that story? He said, Caesar challenged me to a swimming match. I jumped in the river and we were rocking, we were rolling. And then all of a sudden he started to drown and I had to save him. I had to put him on my shoulder and carry him out. And this punk, this guy is a god right now. This guy can't even swim well. Listen. And this man is now become a god and Cassius is a wretched creature and must bend his body if Caesar carelessly nods on him. You know, he had a fever when he was in Spain, and when his fit was on him, I did mark how he did shake. 'Tis true, this god did shake. Guys, gals, this is always fun to say. Caesar had seizures. Guys, Caesar was an epileptic, which means he had epilepsy, which means he had seizures every once in a while. Now, we know in the year, what are we in now, 2021? We know what epilepsy, well, we kind of know what epilepsy is. We know, it's hard to say because I'm not a doctor. I'm an English teacher. But we know that if somebody has epilepsy, it doesn't mean there's a demon inside them, right? We know that they're going to be okay once they get through that seizure. Well, in 44 BC, if you saw somebody drop down to the ground and foam at the mouth and have a seizure, well, you might get away with saying there's a demon inside that man. We need to execute this guy, dude. He's the devil down there. Look at him. That's the devil. Superstition, right? Cassius is saying, dude, once I saw Caesar drop down to the ground and have a seizure. I mean, come on, really? This guy is like the head of Rome, and he drops down every once in a while and froths at the mouth. I mean, please, that's not really good. Listen, I did hear him groan. In that tongue of his that bade the Romans mark him and write his speeches in their books. Alas, it cried, give me some drink, Titinius, like a sick girl. You gods, it doth amaze me. A man of such feeble temper should so get the start of the majestic world and bear the palm alone. And then, boom, there's another shout and flourish. So over there again, they're screaming again for Caesar. So something happened again over there. And Brutus is going to be like, dude, we got to get over there. Something big is happening. But hold on. We're going to stop right there. I just want to point out what we have just learned. Cassius is desperately trying to get Brutus to join his plot to kill Caesar so that the Roman people don't kill him after he kills Caesar, right? So if the Roman people hear that Brutus was involved in this plot, then all will be well. They'll say, okay, that was his best friend, and he always does what's for the good of Rome. So Cassius is explaining to Brutus why it would be for the good of Rome to kill Caesar. And he's starting off with Caesar's weaknesses. We have found out he's a crappy swimmer, and we have found out he has epilepsy, both of which have nothing to do with leading a country. But again, if you're Cassius, you're going to pull out everything you can out of your bag of tricks to try to trick Brutus into thinking that Caesar is for the bad of Rome, is, against Rome. Ladies and gentlemen, we are done with Act 1, Scene 2. Fabulous job. When we pick it up tomorrow, Cassius is going to continue trying to convince Brutus. He's not going to get them all, but he's going to get them about 80% over. Something he's still going to have to do something. He'll have to do some active manipulation to get Brutus 100% in the plot. Once he does, then they're going to go kill Caesar. So that'll be about Act 3. So we know it's going to happen. The question is, what does it take to get Brutus into the plan? What does Cassius need to do? And the rest of our scene tomorrow isn't just Brutus and Cassius talking. We are going to, what is the rest of our scene? I can tell you very quickly. I just lost my train of thought. Hold on a second. We're going to meet some of the other conspirators, and then I think we will be done. So, ladies and gentlemen, great job at the end of Act 1, Scene 2. The middle of Act 1, Scene 2. Let me turn off this recording, please. You will bear with me. Hold on.